Hello student, I am Professor Pallavi Devkate. Welcomes you in 11th lecture of Elective Econ 354. Course title is Agribusiness Management. In previous lecture, we studied about management in agribusiness. In this management, we studied the meaning of management, definition of management, then different role of management, then different characteristics of manager, different functions of management. Okay, so in today's lecture we are going to learn planning in agribusiness. Okay, in which we studying planning, meaning and definition, then importance of planning, advantages of planning, and steps in planning process. Okay, so we see one by one these different plants under planning. So first of all, we see the planning in agribusiness. Okay, so meaning of planning, that means the thinking before doing, that is called as planning in general. Also, the planning is deciding in advance what to be do in future, that is called as planning. Okay, whatever the objectives or whatever the action which is in future, we can decide in advance, that we call as planning. Okay, so the process by which the manager looks to the future and discover the alternative course of action, that we call as planning. Okay, so planning is the process of determining the objectives of administrative efforts and the devising means calculated to achieve them. Okay, or in another words, this planning is the preparation for the action, and it is mostly based on knowledge and research, that we call as a planning. Okay, also in planning we describe the adoption of specific program in order to achieve desired result, or also this planning determine the goals, policies and course of action which involves the process like work scheduling, setting up the procedures, setting goal, preparing agenda and programming. Okay, all these are included in planning. Okay, so basically this planning is the whatever the action or activities which are carried out in future, so deciding that activities is known as planning. Okay, after meaning of planning, or another meaning of planning, that is planning is deciding in advance what to be done in future, when it is to be done, by whom it is to be done and why it is to be done. Okay, or how it is to be done, how to bridge the gap where we are staying and where we want to go in. Okay, so answer of all these questions is nothing but the planning. It means whatever we decide related to this question is known as planning. Okay, after meaning of planning, next one, that is definition of planning. Okay, so definition of planning according to different scientists, there are different definition of scientists. So first definition, that is forward thinking about course of action or activities based on full understanding of all the related factors and directed to the specific objective is known as planning. Okay, so in short, this planning is nothing but the forward thinking about the course of action or activities on the basis of related factors or resources, and which are directed toward the specific objective, that we call as planning. Or according to Billy Goetz, the planning is fundamentally choosing among the alternatives. Okay, some another definition which are given by scientist Alfred Benty. The planning is the thinking process, organized foresight, the vision, basement fact and experience that is required for intelligent action, that we call as a planning. Okay, so we can define the planning, that is forward thinking about course of action or activities based on full understanding of all the related factors and directed towards the specific objective that we call as a planning. Okay, after definition of planning, next one that is importance of planning. Okay, so there are major 6 importance of planning. So in that first one, to offset the uncertainties and changes. Okay, so this uncertainty and changes make the planning necessary. This planning means the selecting from the available alternatives and best use of that particular alternative to accomplish a common goal that we call as a planning. Okay, so in this planning process we can offset the uncertainties and changes by using the best alternative available. Okay, then another importance, that is focus the attention on objectives. Okay, so this planning is directed toward the achieving enterprise goal. So whatever we plan, this planning focus on our specific objectives. Okay, next important, that is gain the economic operation. Okay, because of planning we can minimize the cost, because the emphasis on efficient operation, then consistency, and it substitute the unwarranted cost. Okay, so this planning can gain the economic operation. Okay, because of planning we can minimize the cost, and also we can make the work efficiently and consistently, and also the unwanted cost or unwanted work can be avoided. Okay, after that, next function of planning, that is facilitate control. Okay, so this planning helps to check the subordinate accomplishment. That means this planning check the subordinates. Then next one, that is fifth function, planning ensure the efficient use of scarce resource. Okay, next one, that is efficient use of scarce resource. So in case of planning, it harmonizes the efforts of an organization and the different resources which are available and which are scarce. That particular resource are efficiently used because of only planning. Okay, after that, 6 importance of planning, that is this planning exercise the control. Okay, the planning is only a way by which an organization can exercise the control to check that it is on the desired course of action. Okay, so this planning can be diverted toward the course of action and attainment of proper goal of organization. Okay, these are the different importance of planning. After importance of planning, next one, that is advantages of planning. So there are so many advantages of planning. In that first one, it reduces the mistake and oversight. Because of planning we can observe the different mistakes and oversight, and which can be reduced while implementation. Okay, second advantage, that is make control easier. Okay, another advantage, that is it ensures the more productive use of organization resources. That means what are the alternative resources or available resources, that available resources can be effectively used. Okay, it enables the identification of future problem, because in planning, if you done the plan of whole organization in detail, so during planning we can identify the different future problems, and these problems can be recovered or avoided during the implementation of that particular plan. Next advantage, that is increase the effectiveness of manager. Then another advantage, that is it helps the organization to secure better position. Because of planning the organization can achieve their defined goals, so organization can secure the better position. Next advantage, it helps the company to remain more competitive in its industry. And last advantage, that is planning helps the organization to progress in the manner most suitable to its management. Okay, so these are the different advantages of planning process. Okay, after advantages of planning, next one, that is characteristics of good planning or characteristics of sound plan, how your plan must be. Okay, so planning should be based on clearly defined objective. It is the first and most important characteristics of plan, that is your plan must be clearly define your objectives. Okay, another characteristic, that is planning must start from the top management. That means as earlier we studied the different management levels, so your planning must start from top management. Next one, that is planning must be flexible. That means if there are any uncertainty or any change that must be involved in planning, that means planning must be flexible, it is not rigid. Then another characteristic, that is short term planning should be integrated to long run planning. Okay, so whatever the long run of a top management, this short run planning can be integrated with this long run planning. Then plan should be properly implemented by the people down to the line. Okay, whatever you prepare that plan, this plan can be properly implemented. And next characteristic of planning, that is the planning can be made a participative process to ensure the resources. That means the planning must be participative process, and that can be involve all the available resource use. Okay. Some other characteristics of plan, that is the planning should lead to the simple and balanced plan. Okay, that means whatever your plan, it must be simple and also balanced. Then it should use the available resources to the utmost before making use of new resources. That means the planning must include whatever the resources available with that particular organization. So firstly, plan must use that particular resource and then making the use of new resource. Some other characteristics of good plan, in that first one, that is planning should be simple and balanced. Okay, so whatever the plan you have to prepare, that must be simple and balanced. Then it should use the available resources to utmost before making the use of new resources. Whatever you prepare the plan, in that plan you must use the available resource first and then we move toward the use of new resources. Also this plan must be practicable. Okay, whatever your plan, that plan must be implemented practically on a field. Next one, avoid excessive risk. While preparing planning, you have to avoid the various risky points or risky decision in that particular plan. Then planning must provide efficient marketing facilities. While preparing the plan of any organization, this plan must be provide marketing facilities. Also in planning, there is provision for borrowing, using and repayment of credit. Okay, so this plan must be used the different sources of credit, then borrowing of credit and repayment of credit. That means how this credit is repaid. After that, next characteristic, that means this plan must be provide the use of latest technology. So there must be some scope regarding the latest use of technology in your plan. Next characteristic, plan should be written. Okay, whatever you prepare your plan, this plan must be written, then and then only it can be implemented. Okay, next characteristic, that means they improve the distribution and use of labor power, water requirement throughout the year. Okay, so your plan must be include the distribution and use of labor, power, water requirement throughout the year. Okay, so these are the different characteristics of plan. Okay, so next point in this planning, that is steps in planning process. Okay, so there are different 7 steps in planning process. So in that first step, that is gathering of facts. Second one, that is analyzing that facts. Third one, forecasting change. Then fourth, setting the goals and result. Fifth one, that is development alternatives. And last one is evaluation process. We see one by one these different steps in planning process. Okay, so first step in your planning process, that is gathering of fact. Okay, so in this gathering of fact, you have to gather sufficient information to identify the needed for your plan. Whatever the information related to your plan, you have to first gather the all information through the different sources. That means you can use the different sources of information such as primary source and secondary source, like data directly from any farmer or any organization or any publication, books, reference books, then different research article, magazine. You can use any source for collection of that particular data. Then after collecting or gathering of that particular data, systematically gather the specific fact needed to make your plan. Okay, after gathering of that particular fact or information, you have to systematically gather that particular fact which are needed to make the plan in a work. Okay, after that, next step, that is analyzing the fact. Okay, so analysis should give the answer to question like where are we, how did we got here. Okay, so after analysis of that particular fact, you got the answer of where are you. That means now or today, what is the position of our organization, and to reach that, how to do. Okay, that is, this analyzing fact help in identifying the existing problem and opportunities and provide the framework upon which to base the successful decision. Okay, this analyzing fact help us to identifying different problems. Also, it helps us to finding out the different opportunities, and also it provide the framework to reach up to specified goal. Okay, then in this analyzing fact, next point, that means this analysis of fact prevent the making foolish decision or mistakes and allows for the wisest use of organizational resources. Okay, so this analyzing fact step helpful in prevention of fooling mistakes, or also it gives the suggestion for the use of organizational resources effectively. Okay, after second step, third step, that is forecasting change. Okay, so in this forecasting change is ultimate the test of good planning. Okay, it shares been truly said that the ability to determine what the future holds is highest from the management skill. Okay, that means the more broader, more complex, more long range plan is more difficult, and it is to be foreseen result accurately. Okay, so this forecasting is interrelated with all other steps of planning. Okay, this forecasting is related with all other steps of planning, and this forecasting change is not guessing the game, but it is based on the discipline through approach to the planning. Okay, after forecasting change, next step, that is setting of goal and result. Okay, So goals cannot be set in a vacuum, but it must be related to attainable. Whatever you can set your goal, that goal must be attainable. The goal must be formed as a consequences of gathering of fact and analyzation of that particular fact. Okay, then the goals should be aimed toward the organizational operation. Whatever you set your goal, that goal must achieve the organization objectives. Okay, after that, fifth step, that is developing alternatives. Okay, so in case of development alternatives, we can explore the different ways of getting our objectives. Okay, this alternative must be vetted, evaluated, tested in the light of unique agribusiness resources. Whatever your alternative, that alternative must be evaluated and tested before using. Then imagination is crucial, since the new way or new paths can be used for our success. Okay, so you can use the different alternatives to reach our success or objectives. And last step, that is evaluating process. So the surveillance and checking of progress have been found by management to be one of the highest priority. Okay, so surveillance and checking of progress, it is one of the highest priority of management. Then evaluation shows whether our plan is on right course or not, or whether this plan allows the both analysis of new information and discovery of new opportunity. Okay, so this evaluating progress is most important in planning process. Okay, in evaluation must be incorporated as the most important step in planning process. Okay, so these are the different steps in planning process, in which first one, gathering of fact, analyzing fact, forecasting change, then setting of goal and result, then development of alternatives and evaluating progress. Okay, these are the different steps in planning process. Okay, so this is all about planning in agribusiness. Okay, question may be asked on this topic, like define planning, explain different characteristics of good plan, or question may be asked like define planning and explain different steps in planning process. Okay, thank you all.